Hey everyone, and welcome to the Babylon Chronicles, a podcast dedicated to taking a look at the inner workings, discussions, and shenanigans involved with making one of the world's most powerful, beautiful, simple, and open web rendering engines, Babylon.js.
Yes, we're good, buddy.
My name is Jason Carter, also known as Pirate JC, and I'm joined, as always, by the troll of the team, David Kattu. David, thank you for making me stumble on my words. We literally kicked this off and he goes, how do you do it so smoothly without making a mistake? And then, of course, mistakes. But
I just remember Babylon and shenanigans because I find the word I'm using, like shenanigans.
It's not, that doesn't roll off the French tongue, shenanigans.
No, it's not easy, right? I have I mean, we can keep that for later, but I learned today that it's not booty liquors, but boot liquors, right? And someone told me,
yeah, those are different.
Same thing.
Those are different.
So I am learning, right? I'm here to learn, right? That's the.
Those are very, very different.
Learn something new every day, right?
Yeah,
That's
right.
Exactly right. And we have a special guest today, Mr. Kevin Brown, who is a member of the Babylon team, somebody who has managed to hide his face quite well from the community.
He's known on the forum as.
No, and I can tell that story of that name too.
Yes.
Amoeba Chance on the forum.
Amoeba Chance, yes.
Yeah.
Let's start here. Let's start back with, let's go OG Kevin, little boy Kevin.
So at the beginning, there were the dinosaurs.
That's right. We started with
all
the dinosaurs.
died suddenly, and then Kevin was born. So what else?
No, actually, before the dinosaurs. Yes, yeah, I remember that. No,
yeah, Kevin, when did you start with computers? When did that hit for you?
You know, I was actually, grew up in the 80s. And I was lucky to be around computers as a little kid. My dad worked in the oil and gas industry on like software for the oil and gas industry. And so we always had computers around the house. I had a TI 99A in my bedroom.
Oh my gosh.
Yes. And it's worth noting that, because I'm like you, growing up in the 80s, that was a privilege. Not everybody had a computer at home.
It was very cool to have a computer at home.
Like, think of people from the third world, like France, where we barely have electricity, right? Like
Third world, France? Yeah, okay, keep going.
Yeah, I had all those cartridges, I still remember like the music from some of them. Hunt the Wumpus, that one used to like give me nightmares. That was kind of scary, the thing coming down. But anyway, so that was like I had computers around from when I was little. And like when you asked me when I was like really little what I wanted to be when I grew up, it was an inventor. And then I discovered programming.
Any particular kind, or just inventing everything?
Inventing everything. I think that was my goal.
Well, you did not land that far from that goal, if you look at it.
It's true.
Yeah. Well, when I found programming, I was like, wow, this is like the best way to invent ever.
Exactly.
And so then I was kind of zeroed in on that. But before that, I was like building all these contraptions and things and having a lot of fun with that. But got into programming and just loved how I could just imagine things and build them and the problem solving of it. So I think it was like fifth grade.
Oh,
I think it was fifth grade. We had a teach the class a skill day. And so the thing I taught was QBasic. Because
I'm pretty sure everyone follow along, right?
I don't think I was a very good teacher. But I was having a lot of fun with it. And so that's an early memory I have of programming. And then I would go to, after school, a lot of times I'd end up going to my dad's office, and, he owned his own business. So he was there like all hours of the day. Right. And, but I always had a computer off to the side, and I would always want to build stuff that was useful to people. I remember like, I didn't want to write a program unless somebody was going to use it.
Oh man.
And yes. And so, I mean, I was making little label makers and things. It would like read in CSV files and print out labels and line them up on the, this is the printers with the dot matrix printers, with the little feeding mechanism and all that. So like getting all that to line up, it was very, very manual. But I had fun with that. I very trial and error. But yeah, so like I started really young, and because it was just so fun to build and create with programming.
I love it. That's incredible.
I hear you. Yes.
When you teach QBasic to a fifth grade class, how many like just were there over their head, or was everybody tracking along? How'd that go? Do you remember?
don't think I was as skilled at explaining things to people then as I hope I am now. I don't think it went very smoothly. The way I remember it, my best friend was like totally lost and frustrated, and that's about my only memory of that.
That's funny.
So, yeah.
And so at what point did you kind of say, I want to go study this more?
I was always more interested in learning by doing. So my dad would teach me kind of some of the basics, and then I'd just go off and experiment, right? I never really took to learning from a book or even from a class. I was pretty much self-taught, and sometimes very stubborn. He would definitely tell you about, this is back in those early days of just learning QBasic. I did not understand why modules, which were basically functions that didn't return a value, why those would be useful. Why would you want to do that? Why would you have a function for just one long?
Yes.
Yeah. Go-tos everywhere. Yeah, it was great. But I was really stubborn. Then eventually, I tried it, and I was like, oh. Okay.
Oh, reusability, yes.
Yeah, exactly. That's actually kind of nice, isn't it? But yeah, I mean, that's maybe indicative of my learning style is learning by doing, and from the very beginning.
So did you end up choosing classes like a university around that?
Actually, I picked a high school based on it. I went to a magnet school in high school, and I was mostly excited about it because it had computer science, and most didn't back then.
What's a magnet school?
It was
it's something that attracts you,
exactly.
If you are made of metal, of course.
Yes. The metal implants really helped with that. No, it was in the public school system, but it was a small school and a big high school. It had its own teachers, its own administration, but it was focused on math, science, and technology. It was the Academy of Math, Science, and Technology. And it was something you had to apply to, and you had to write an essay and everything. And I don't know, there's one class, 30 of us or something per year. It was pretty small, but in a big high school. So our non-engineering math, science classes were in the regular high school, and then those specialized classes were with the academy teachers.
The people, right? You were the superior people in that.
No,
right?
we tried not to come across that way, but we had some really good teachers. But I have to tell you, I was super disappointed registering for classes as a freshman because there was no computer science offered. And so I was really bummed. What'd you say?
Did you weasel your way in?
I did. Yeah,
nice.
I did. Yeah. And they were great. And just saying hey, this is what I'm really passionate about. Mrs. Lowenberg was great. She was the teacher all through my high school. And she said, sure, let's do this. And so I took so we had CS1, then CS2, and then special topics. And I took that one over and over again. I think I took it a total of 9 CS classes throughout high school because basically she was great. She would, teach the lesson, and it was in Pascal, which I didn't know. I had been mainly using C at that point. And so I got to learn that new language, and then I do those assignments, but then she'd let me go and explore whatever I wanted to after that. And so that was a ton of fun. So basically it was time for me to just go free explore with programming, and I loved it. It was great.
That's amazing.
Did you have a computer at home?
Yeah. Probably back then, I actually had my BBS back then, which is a story I should tell too.
Oh yeah. This is a part of the formation of Kevin. I want to hear it.
It is part of the backstory, especially around my alias. So so this is early 90s, no internet, right? At least publicly for the masses. But BBSs were quite a scene, bulletin board systems. And so probably one of my best Christmas presents ever was Wildcat 3.9S.
Okay.
Yeah. So I got Wildcat. I set up a BBS, and that was my main project, my main hobby project for
So I have a question as a foreigner, as a previous foreigner. So first, apologies for all the non-American people who does not understand sophomore, CS1, CS2. That makes 0 sense for every external people. I'm with you guys, no worries. But,
okay.
Did you pay? Because in France, the internet, and sorry, even before that, we have the Minitel, which was the equivalent of the BBS, but no one was using it because it was extremely expensive to serve and read. Was it the same here? Like you will install your BBS server, do you have to pay anything?
Yeah, good question. There were a few early commercial services like CompuServe, later AOL, where you could dial in, right? But you needed to have a local phone number.
Yeah,
right?
But you pay as you use it, right? It's not a...
Some of them were free. A lot of BBSs were free. They didn't charge you, but if it wasn't a local call, you'd be paying the phone company for the phone call. And that could get really expensive.
Because it went through the phone lines, you had to pay for.
Yeah. I'm tempted to like try the modem handshake sound, but it's still in my head deep in there somewhere. But yeah, so you had to host a BBS, you had to get a dedicated phone line, right? Because it needed to be there all the time for other people to be able to call into. And that wasn't cheap. So that was the main cost of running the BBS at first. And then getting
your main line, because if someone is wants to use a phone, they can't, right?
Right. Otherwise, it would be busy, because people are trying to talk on the line.
Yeah, I remember yelling at my mom because I was downloading stuff with my modem, and she wants to call my grandma.
Do we understand how old we sound as a podcast right now?
Yes,
like,
I do.
What's a phone? And it was involved in a modem?
What a line.
Hey, this whole conversation started with me growing up with the dinosaurs. So,
I like it.
I think it's thematic. We're online. So Amoeba Chant, what the heck, right? So when I made this board, and I was having a ton of fun getting it ready for the big like reveal, and I'd been calling into these other boards, and there was actually a board, the Yankee Clipper. So this is the Houston area, by the way, for like anybody who happens to be watching this who's from the Houston area and our era. It would be amazing if you remembered the Yankee Clipper. But the sysop of that was super nice. The sysop is the system operator, the person running the thing, right? They were super friendly, helping me figure out the ropes, how to get set up, and setting appropriate expectations that most boards fail in the first couple of months because it's a ton of work. But it helped me get set up. And then I had needed to pick a name for the BBS. And I didn't want it to pigeonhole me into being like all about files or all about doors. Doors were games, basically. Like you could like plug into it, right?
Juarez, right?
Some of them were about that, right?
99.99999% were about Juarez.
Quite a few, yes. Or it could be about files, or sometimes about chat. Some of them had pretty vibrant chat communities and forums. I didn't want the name to kind of lock me into one thing or another, and it had to start with an A because of phone books and
number
BBS
one
lists.
in the list, right?
It had to be an A because there was a Houston area BBS list, which was on all the boards, right? And people would download it to find out about new boards, and it was always alphabetical. So I'm like, I gotta be an A, right?
Smart.
And then I wanted it to be kind of weird and make people think like, what the heck is that? I'm gonna go see what that is. And so I asked my brain for a weird thing that starts with A, and Amoeba Chant came out. So
I would not have think about that, honestly. Fantastic.
I asked my brain. That's good.
Yeah.
I like the relationship you have with your brain, for sure.
Yeah. How long was this kept this BBS?
Well, 4 or 5 years. I think at the end, I had like you keep track of how many calls you've had. I think by the time I shut it down, I had like 196,000 calls or something like that.
Wow.
So
cool.
Yeah, and eventually, like we got a second phone line, so I could have two simultaneous users, which means I had to set up desk view in order to do the multitasking stuff. And this is back in the days of like MemMaker and. Okay, I really sound old, but
no, you are. Just not that sounds. You are.
Yeah, nobody knows what I'm talking about. It's okay.
And in that time, there was one user, meaning that if I wanted to connect to your BBS and someone was already connected with your modem,
you get a busy signal.
Yeah,
and that's why you had strict time limits, right? Like as a user, you would have like 30 minutes a day or something. Yeah, and then. As you grew your reputation on a bulletin board, your security level would increase, which gives you more privileges, like more time each day. And so, like, if you're a friend of the sysop, boom, I can make you give you 2 hours. That was kind of fun. Being the whole control, not going to lie.
Very cool.
But with multiple lines, then multiple people could call in, and then the internet started to be a thing. Like we started to have local ISPs you could like pay a subscription to, and be able to call. They had to have huge banks of modems, right? So you'd be unlikely to get a busy signal, and we actually got an ISDN line at the house.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, which was, I remember you could get a 64 kilobit per second or a 128. And I remember,
yes.
Yeah, I remember the 128 is so much bandwidth that you can hear your voice echo in there. And it was
hear me here. In 1999, I founded my first company in France. The first internet connection we bought for that company was a dual 128. Man, Ooh. It was so fast to play games. Like, my gosh.
Yeah, totally. So, yeah, we eventually got this ISDN line, which was a real luxury back then. And so PPP, point-to-point protocol or something like that.
Yeah, PPP,
where you could dial in and then you could actually access the web. So I became a small ISP. I didn't charge anybody anything, but you had like a 30-minute a day limit. But that was one of the things I offered on the BBS.
That's fun.
So it was super fun.
And so how did we get from Amoeba Chant, super popular bulletin board in Houston, to Microsoft employee in Seattle, Washington?
I have no idea.
From Texas, by the way, right? Like from Texas to Seattle.
Yeah. Well, then I went to college, and I went to Texas A&M University and studied computer science there. Got exposed to some cool stuff like
Longhorn.
What?
Longhorns? Isn't that what it is? A&M? No.
You're trolling me now.
I am.
Yes. Yeah.
So for people who have no context, I'm with you guys.
That's rivalry. Jason is deliberately mistaking it for the University of Texas, which is the rival. So yes,
I see.
That's Jason's role on the team, everybody.
Like the troll.
So I went to Texas A&M. I learned some more stuff. I was particularly on like the hardware side, like microcontroller stuff. Those things I hadn't been exposed to. That was pretty cool. I actually dabbled in aerospace engineering because I was really interested in getting my pilot's license. And then I found out that budgeting is hard and pilot's lessons are expensive, and I ran out of money. And then I realized that I actually enjoyed flying planes a lot more than all of the math to figure out where the rivets should go to make sure the materials are strong enough for the plane to be safe, right? And so I went back to computer science because I was like, that's what I really loved. And I came up and did an internship at Microsoft between my junior and senior year.
Microsoft in Texas, right?
No, actually they came down and they had a recruiting event, and I got to interview on campus at Texas A&M, and then I flew out for interviews in Redmond, and I got an internship. I think the BBS helped, and like all my little side projects, and I didn't know what to think because I was honestly planning to like start my own software company like after college. That was like my trajectory. It's like a software. My dad, always had his own businesses. I was like, that's what I'm going to do. Right. And then I got to Microsoft and it was like, wow, I didn't know what to expect. It's a giant company. And I was looking around and it's like, oh, these people are all like super passionate about software like I am. They're like a bunch of nerds like me, except they have like marketing experts who can go and business experts and all of these people who can do the other side of the business, and these guys get to focus on the tech. Like that's really cool. Like I saw my dad had to wear all hats, right?
Yeah, of course.
And so as a business owner, you got to do everything. And so that was super appealing. I was like, wow, they're like people just like me, but with a lot more resources, right? to build stuff and have impact to a huge scale. So I was excited to join right after.
How long was it?
How long?
How long in the past? Like it was like 20 years ago.
When was this? This was
when was it? Yes.
Yeah, 2002.
2002.
Yeah, my internship I think was 2002. I graduated in 2003.
24 years ago.
Yeah, a little while ago.
It's kind of amazing. So every generation there's this trend that happens where in the 1950s, a person would go and dedicate their career to one company, and they'd start their career there and they retire there, right? And then every generation, the number of companies or jobs or changes that occur in a person's overall career increases. So it's actually incredibly rare. The last time I looked at this, I believe for kind of our generation, it's something like 6 or 7 is the average between like number of companies or jobs that you've been a part of.
From
And Kevin, it's kind of a remarkable thing that you started your career at Microsoft and you have successfully navigated it, been very successful, and stayed here your entire career. That's kind of an impressive thing.
24 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm looking at I was looking down at my calendar. I think June 23rd might be my anniversary. I think I might be at 22, I think is what it'll be actually, because I think I joined in 2003, June of 2003, if I remember correctly. Yeah, yeah, and a lot of my friends who started at the same time, they moved and hopped between different companies and everything. Yes. But what I did is I hopped around within the company.
Yeah.
That's one thing I've really enjoyed about Microsoft is there's just so many different products and just so many different things to work on and go and learn that And
you've done a fair amount. Give it a level.
Yeah,
what have you worked on? What have you bounced around been doing? Because it's pretty broad.
Yeah. Well, I started actually in Exchange server. Yeah,
got it.
Exactly. Yeah, yeah. So yeah, email, and I was actually started as a program manager. I was excited about defining like what we were going to build, and then so as a program manager in Exchange, worked on email servers, and then after a few years, I decided I was really super curious and interested in security. And the reason for that actually came from a lot of the BBS days, because there were a lot of people trying to break into my board, right? Like I would see people trying to hack the board. That was one fun thing about the BBS is like my computer was sitting in the closet, right? And there's a screen in there and I could go turn it on and see exactly what the current caller sees. And so I see them like trying to like do script injection stuff, and I'd like hang up or or sometimes bring up a chat and say, stop that. So anyway, but it was always a mystery to me, like how does hack with somebody in the, let's see, it was a Secure Windows initiative at the time as a PM, and said, hey, I don't really have a background in this right now, but I've got all this other experience, and I'm super interested in this. Would you be willing to take somebody on who wants to learn? And it worked out well for them at the time, and they ended up bringing me on, and so I consulted with different products across the company, cool. From like Office products to Flight Simulator, about how to apply the security development lifecycle. So I learned it from like a process perspective and like how to develop secure software. And that's actually the team where I switched over to dev, because honestly, I was coding on nights and weekends all the time because that's what I really love doing. And it's like I got to switch to engineering because this is like I got to be hands on. So that's where I made the switch to engineering.
To be frank, I knew the story, and I'm still shocked that you were a PM. But that being said, as part of your current job, you have a big role as a PM. So no way now you can complain about it anymore, right? Like,
well, it's a helpful perspective. Like one thing I heard early on, I went to a talk by a very senior. She may have been a technical fellow. I don't recall her name, but early on, who said if you want to stay on the IC track, right, not management, but individual contributor, it's very helpful to have a career. And that stuck with me. And at one point in my journey, I actually became a dev lead for a couple of years. And so I feel like that dev lead experience and that PM experience has been really helpful for my current role even. So
yeah, I think I'm going to take a quick aside and actually say one of the things that people should know about you, Kevin, that I think is a true superpower is you really do have a gifting at capable of wearing multiple different hats. And I think a lot of this comes from your natural. You have a lot of natural organizational and product skills. You can bring people together exceptionally well, communicate exceptionally well. You are an outstanding engineer, and you do incredible work for Babylon, and we'll get to that on exactly what you're doing for Babylon. And then also you understand the strategy involved in how to get things done at a massive corporation. aware. And it's I think that, not to put words in your mouth, I think that's part of your success at Microsoft, is that you are willing to try different things because you have the capabilities of trying different things. You're not rigid about who you are. You're able to learn a lot of broad stuff. And I think it's a superpower.
Wow, thanks.
And to complement that, the French group at Microsoft, I think Kevin is the first one where we were not even able to badmouth about him at all. Like, we were not able to find something negative to say about Kevin, which is our game, right? As French, right? We love to criticize people.
You're quite good at finding
Kevin is number one in our
something.
list. We did not crack that yet, right? What should we say about him, which is bad?
Oh, you just haven't admitted it yet.
But it is impressive that you've been able to wear so many hats. So yeah, real quick, I know you worked in security, you worked in Exchange, you worked in camera and video playback, you worked in photos, and yeah. Give us the quick highlight of how you got to Babylon.
Quick version. So Exchange Server, Secure Windows Initiative as a PM, Microsoft Security Response Center as an engineer, Windows Phone as an engineer, several releases of Windows Phone. Then Windows as an engineer, and then working on the Photos app. And that's where I did a couple of years as a dev lead. And the short version is I decided, like, while it was really gratifying to have that role of kind of guiding people and getting the right work for them for their opportunities and helping them grow, I really missed the hands-on again. Yeah. And so just like early in my career when I wanted to switch from PM to engineering because I was coding nights and weekends, is the same thing. I was writing a job description for an engineer, and my heart, I knew, like, I wanted that job. And so it managed to work out where I was able to move back into the IC role. And then from there, I worked on Stream and worked on video and Stream. And that's when I met the Babylon team. And so it's kind of the rest is history.
And for anyone who doesn't know, Stream is kind of a playback organizational tool for enterprise, right? That is a poor analogy, but it's kind of a YouTube-ish YouTube for enterprise. Yeah. It's not the perfect analogy, but something kind of like that.
Yeah. And video playback and web, right? So this was web-based video playback was what I was really focused on.
Because everything before was native, and that was when you jumped from native to web, right?
Yeah. So it was like PM for Exchange, and then it was like assembly for MSRC, and then it was C++ for Windows Phone, and then it was XAML and C# for the Windows Photos app, and then it was back to JavaScript when I started working on the web video player. Because that's kind of back to before Microsoft for me. And so it was kind of funny coming to it and like seeing TypeScript and React and all these libraries, and then seeing like what they're built on. Oh, that's the stuff that I worked with before I even joined Microsoft. Like it's HTML and CSS and the DOM and all that stuff. So that foundation was still there. I had to learn all these new libraries that had been built over the years. But yeah, and that's when it came together with the Babylon team.
Yeah, we had this awesome opportunity to kind of bring you on board the team and have you kind of step into taking over some systems, designing some new features and things like that. Why don't you cover briefly, like what is your areas of ownership on the team? What are you interested in learning and growing? Like at this point in your career, I've been a professional software developer for 20 plus years. What are you interested in growing and learning about? Why choose Babylon? Would love to hear that a little bit.
Well, just to tie that back first, like you pointed out, it's kind of unusual to stay at one company for this long. And I was saying it's because like there's always something new to go and learn. Like that was my move into security. It was like, wow, I want to see how hacking works and like how you defend against that. And that was from the BBS days. Well, one of the things that had been in the back of my mind for a long time is graphics. Like I've always been intrigued by graphics. I mean, Winamp visualizers, were always so fun. And in that CS class, there was a rule that you couldn't play games in the computer lab unless you wrote them. So I wanted to learn DirectX, right?
That's a brilliant rule, actually.
Yeah. So I wrote a Tetris clone in DirectX and had a ton of fun with that, right? And it was I always wanted an excuse to go and learn a new tech, right? And so I had dabbled in graphics. I don't know if you call the BBS the ANSI graphics. I did their graphics, but But I had dabbled in it and I'd been fascinated by it for a long time. There were some cool little Pascal projects with like fire effects with pixels that were really inefficient but looked cool. So that had been in the back of my mind like all this time. Like, oh, this is an area that I haven't really gotten to dive deep into, but I've always been really interested in. And so when my team and the Babylon team kind of met each other, right, and I got to work with some of the Babylon folks, particularly when I was re-ramping up on web, I was like, wow, they were doing some very cool stuff there. And then when the opportunity came for me to join the team, I was like, hey, this is one of those great chances for me to go and dive deep into something I've always been curious about and do it with some real experts, right, who are awesome people. And so I'm like, best move ever. And so, yeah. And so the first project that I've been working on is the Smart Filters project, right? And so that was that's been a really fun one. With Babylon 8, it was kind of a first release of that feature, and kind of tied in nicely to some of the work I'd done before because it's really great for applying effects to video, right? I
love this.
It was a great transition.
And it's actually used inside Microsoft products which are doing videos, right? So it literally closing the loop.
Yep.
Yeah, I think there's some interesting context here. When we think about developers who use Babylon, we think a lot about there's a pretty big breadth of capabilities and skill sets, right? And one of the things, though Babylon started as a place where you write code, over time we've recognized that there are people with a large variety of skill sets, including artists that come to Babylon. And one of the things that we've started doing over the last 5 years is introducing more visual type tools that still allow you to develop visualizations, whether that be in materials or geometry or shaders. And the Smart Filters is an evolution of that. It's the next tool, the latest tool, I should say, of these visual editors that allow you to create compelling visuals using the GPU, but actually without having to write any code. And I think David hit on something that's very, very important. One of the really interesting use cases of what you've been able to do with Smart Filters is you have a tool, it's open source, it's available for everyone to use. You can create video filters, photo filters, treatments, visualizations. It is used at Microsoft by designers who are designing new visualizations for products. So you've taken a dev platform and you've written something where designers can use a dev platform to create designs. And that is a very special hop that you've been able to do. Very, very cool.
Well, like when I was a kid and I was at my dad's office and wanting to write software without using functions, but I wanted it to be useful, it's like this one thing that's so amazing about being on the Babylon team is being so close to the people using it, yes, right? Mm-hmm. Like, I've worked on some pretty awesome products at Microsoft, but I was part of a team of like thousands of people, and I might ship to lots and lots of people, but I don't really get to meet them or interact with them very easily, right? And so that's one thing that's really cool here is being able to build something that, like you said, like developers can integrate directly, but designers and artists can use the visual tool and create really cool effects that they can then hand off a JSON file to the engineer to integrate, right?
Yeah.
And
again, it's integrated
the forum.
In the world with several products at Microsoft, right? Like it's just free for everyone and used by a major company.
Yeah, exactly. And so I'm really excited to see what our Babylon community is going to do with it, right? And so I'm checking the forum every day. I'm looking for anybody talking about Smart Filters. I'd love to talk about it and see what you're building with it. So
I guess
this is guide the direction we take it too.
Exactly.
Yeah, and this is a great invitation. If you're listening to this podcast, you haven't checked out the Smart Filters API, the editor, any of it, please do so. Check it out. Give us feedback. Ping Amoeba Chant on the forum. He would love to hear from you. And really, like Kevin said, it's a chance to kind of help shape the direction of where this tool could potentially go. And we think we're just starting to scratch the surface of what's possible with unlocking shaders as video and photo treatments. It's pretty compelling stuff.
Yeah, it's pretty neat. It's, the visual side of it is you're actually composing these blocks together, right? Each one is a shader. Yeah. But then part of the system is an optimizer, which will actually like reduce the number of draw calls for you automatically, right? So you don't have to go and know how to hand optimize a shader, right? You can use these visual blocks and get the effects you want and everything, and the system will go and make it run really fast for you. So
I love it. I'm going to put you on the spot for 1 second before we close here, Kevin. I'm going to ask you. So you've been on a lot of different teams at Microsoft, a lot of different, seen different types of people and cultures. What has been the highlight of the team culture and joining Babylon? What's been the biggest challenge for you? Both of those.
Working for Jason, with Jason, probably, it's the highlight.
Well,
it's the highlight.
Oh, that's the highlight. Oh,
yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Oh, is that where you were going with that? Oh, interesting. So one of the highlights, I think, is it's truly an outstanding team. I mean, just amazing people. Real experts, but also just really amazing people, right? And so being surrounded by all of this excellence is just a delight. And the other thing is that each person owns their area very deeply, right? And so, I've worked on a lot of teams with, 50 other engineers working in an area, and it's a totally different set of skills to go and try to build something that a large team can come and party on and be successful, right? And guide the architecture of it, make sure it's maintainable and all that. It's very different to go and say, you're going to be the primary developer on this and just go make it awesome. You can move so fast. That's the thing, and right? So we get a lot more focus time because we are so focused here, right? And that's been a real delight to be able to move so fast. Babylon speed is really fun.
It's like the warp drive behind you.
Yeah, exactly. So
that's why we focus.
Yes.
What about the biggest challenge? What's been tricky for you joining the team? What's different about some of the other teams you've worked on?
So many French in that team, right? That's probably the real
There's some French.
Yeah. I've never had to or had the opportunity to appreciate as many dad jokes as I have, and appreciate is with air quotes.
Yeah. Air quotes, appreciate.
Yeah. Sure. We have some weird culture internally. I agree.
I say culture is formed by the people who live it.
Yes.
Yeah. There's a lot of technical challenge. I'd never written a shader before. Thinking about the way shaders work, the massive parallelization of them, and how to do things efficiently, like learning that divide is a lot more expensive than multiply. There's a lot of technical depth to learn here, which is one of the things I'm so excited about, right? That's what has been really reinvigorating for me. Each of my moves throughout my career is like a whole new thing to go and learn. So there's a ton to learn. So
yeah, overwhelming when you first start, right? When you dive into something and go, "Ooh, where am I?"
Yeah. It's like it's that feeling when you're like digging and you're like, "Oh, that's 5 more questions." One answered 5 more questions, and it broadens for a long time before it narrows. So that's intimidating for anybody, even somebody really experienced, right?
You start to dig in Minecraft and you end up in a huge, gigantic cave, right? You say, "Oh my gosh, where am I now?"
That's great. That's a good analogy, actually. That's a very good analogy.
Totally.
Kevin, let me just say on behalf of the entire community, thanks for what you're doing. Thanks for building what you're building to make Babylon better, bring products to life. Thanks for answering questions on the forum. Thanks for being just an outstanding team member.
Very kind on the forum, very supportive, much appreciated.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here, and I can't wait to talk with more folks on the forum, and particularly excited to see what everybody builds with smart filters. So.
It's pretty. It's a pretty cool tool, and I will say just before we end, I'll say we're very fortunate that when we can have somebody join our team. That's always a wonderful moment. Very, very fun to have those moments where you look at it and you go, "Yeah, a person joins and it's like they were here all along." And I think it's been that way with you on the team.
The beginning.
It's like you were meant to be here. So absolutely super pumped to have you on the team, Kevin. With that, I think we'll call it a podcast. David, thanks very much for hosting as always with me. Kevin, thanks for joining us and give us a little bit about the story.
This has been super fun. Thanks.
Amoeba Chant BBS is no longer active, correct?
It is not. Okay. No, but
that's a shame.
Yeah, you can look it up and you'll still see references to it. So
I love it. All right, folks. Thank you so much. Have a good one. We'll see you in the next one.
Bye, guys.
Bye, everybody.